It's been 3 years or so since I made my previous video about Ed Boon possibly making a Star Wars game, and I want to revisit it. So what would be next for NetherRealm Studios after Mortal Kombat 1? People are saying Injustice 3 will be the next game. On one hand, you got Warner Brothers struggling after having a dismal showing with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and also underperforming seemingly with Multiverses. Many may think that David Zaslav would be very eager to release Injustice 3. Both Injustice games were amazing. But we're not entirely sure if their sales were amazing. All we know was that it sold less than 2 million copies in its first month or so. So if Mortal Kombat 11 can sell 15 million copies and a DC-branded fighting game can only sell 2 million, that doesn't inspire confidence. So that's where an IP like Star Wars could come in, when Warner Brothers is in need of a big seller, like Hogwarts Legacy. Harry Potter is another IP that Warner doesn't own, but they've managed to make big money with it. They can also do the same with Star Wars, now that the exclusive deal with Electronic Arts expired years ago. And it wouldn't be uncommon for Warner Brothers to work on Disney IP, as they have published both Lego Marvel and Cars games in the past. Mortal Kombat director Ed Boon is also very familiar of the Star Wars franchise. He had inserted Star Wars spoofs and Easter eggs into Mortal Kombat games in the past, and I think he could certainly be all in on being the one to make a fighting game featuring Star Wars characters. I think the stars are aligned for this to happen. If they make Injustice 3 as the next NetherRealm game, that's all fine, but the timing couldn't be any better for NetherRealm to surprise us with a Star Wars game. So what kind of fighting game would this be? Unlike Mortal Kombat, the world of Star Wars would call for a more imaginative fighting game environment. So I came up with what I call the Arena Fighter. If you've played any of the Namco anime fighting games, you'll likely know what that means. You can run around freely on a wide area and use the terrain to your advantage. This would call for fights that usually take place from longer distances than what you would expect from the typical NetherRealm game. Close quarters combat will still be a primary way of fighting, but depending on the character you pick, you may also have access to the Force, projectile weapons, traps, or even troops or minions that can deal chip damage. So I've come up with a roster that equals Mortal Kombat 1 in size. It will have a base roster of 23 and a DLC roster of 12. There will be one more evil character than good character. And seeing that this would be a one-off game with no sequel, I really wasn't all that omissive when it came to the battle-adept characters. Though I will say, the roster tends to have a lot more nostalgic characters than modern characters. So here are the Star Wars characters I have decided on.
Luke Skywalker.
Luke's fighting style would focus on his evolving mastery of the Force, blending lightsaber combat with telekinetic powers. His ability to use Force push, pull, and a potent Force blast would make him versatile in battle. His inclusion would bring the essence of a Jedi's journey from novice to master, appealing to fans by showcasing his growth from A New Hope to Return of the Jedi.
Darth Vader.
Vader's style would be slow but terrifyingly powerful. His abilities could include a chokehold that drains opponents' health over time, an area of effect Force explosion, and his iconic lightsaber combat. His presence in the game would add weight and intimidation, appealing to those who enjoy playing as the ultimate villain with a focus on domination.
Han Solo.
Han Solo, the charismatic smuggler, would bring a unique blend of rogue tactics and street fighting to the game. His fighting style would be less about precision and more about improvisation, utilizing his blaster for ranged attacks but also adept in close combat with quick, dirty moves, possibly incorporating his grappling hook for surprise attacks. Solo's inclusion would appeal to fans due to his iconic charm and his ability to turn any situation to his advantage, making him a wildcard character in the roster.
Yoda.
Yoda's fighting style in a 3D fighting game would be all about agility and wisdom. Despite his small size, he would employ acrobatic maneuvers, swift lightsaber attacks, and powerful Force abilities like Force Lightning or Jedi mind tricks to confuse opponents. His unique presence would enhance the game's appeal by showcasing the depth of Jedi teachings and his legendary status in the Star Wars universe.
Leia Organa.
Leia's combat style would reflect her skill in leadership and tactics, combined with her training in the Force, giving her a balanced fighting approach. She could use her diplomatic skills to distract opponents, her blaster for distance combat, and even a bit of Force push or throw for melee. Her addition to the game would resonate with players for her iconic status and her representation of resilience and strategic thinking, offering a versatile gameplay experience.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett's combat style would be a fusion of tactical finesse and brute force, making him a versatile fighter in the game. He would employ his jetpack for aerial superiority, launching surprise attacks or gaining strategic positioning. His wrist rockets could home in on opponents, serving as both a zoning tool and a means to punish predictable movements. With a flamethrower for close combat, he could control space or force foes into unfavorable positions. Additionally, his grappling hook would enable him to disarm or pull enemies in for punishing melee strikes with his gauntlet blades or even his famous E3 carbine rifle for precise shots. Boba's inclusion would attract fans with his iconic armor and gadgets, offering a playstyle that rewards cunning and adaptability.
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan would be a master of Form 3, Soriso, lightsaber combat, focusing on defense and counterattacks, making him ideal for players who enjoy a strategic, survival-based playstyle. His abilities would include force-enhanced jumps for evasion, mind tricks for disorienting foes, and the ability to block or deflect blaster fire. His addition would be essential for teaching players the elegance of Jedi combat and his calm under pressure.
Count Dooku.
Count Dooku would bring an aristocratic and disciplined fighting style to the game, reflecting his mastery of Makashi, the lightsaber form specialized for dueling. His combat would be characterized by precision, with graceful, fencing-like movements that emphasize counterattacks and elegant strikes, along with disarming or outmaneuvering opponents rather than brute strength. Abilities like Force Lightning would serve as both a ranged attack and a crowd control tool, allowing Dooku to keep opponents at a distance or capitalize on their mistakes.
Chewbacca.
Chewbacca would offer brute force and raw power. His style would involve heavy, slow but devastating bowcaster shots from a distance, and close combat with his immense strength, including grabs and throws. His potential for rage abilities that increase his damage output or even a temporary berserk mode would make him a thrilling character to play, especially for fans who admire his loyalty and strength.
Asajj Ventress.
Ventress's style would be agile and aggressive, utilizing dual lightsabers with swift, acrobatic combat. Her moves would include rapid strikes, flips, and spins, making her hard to pin down. She could also use force abilities like Force Choke or Push to manipulate battlefield dynamics. Adding her would enhance the game's lore depth, given her complex backstory with the Night Sisters and her rivalry with Anakin Skywalker.
Rey.
Rey would bring an energetic and versatile fighting style to the game, embodying her journey from a scavenger to a Jedi. Her combat approach would be a mix of self-taught moves and those learned from her mentors, offering a blend of raw power and precision. She could use her staff-like lightsaber for both long and short-range attacks, with the ability to separate it for dual wielding, providing a dynamic moveset. Her force abilities might include Force Push, Pull, and perhaps a unique move like Force Heal, regenerating health during battle, or a quick Force Speed Burst for evasion or rapid attack sequences.
Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren's fighting style in a 3D fighting game would be focused on raw power and emotional intensity, reflecting his inner turmoil. He would wield his crossguard lightsaber with devastating force, capable of executing powerful slashes and stabs. His force abilities might include Force Stasis to slow opponents or Force Pull to bring enemies closer before attacking. His volatile nature could lead to special moves where he unleashes a burst of dark energy, making him a formidable and unpredictable opponent.
General Grievous.
General Grievous' fighting style would be utterly distinctive, leveraging his forearms to wield up to 4 lightsabers simultaneously, creating a whirlwind of lethal strikes. His moveset would include a devastating spin attack that could hit multiple times, making him a nightmare in close quarters. Grievous could also have mechanical enhancements that allow for temporary boosts in speed or strength, simulating his cybernetic augmentations. His addition would be a fan favorite, providing depth with his complex moveset, appealing to players who enjoy mastering intricate combat systems and his notorious role as a Sith Enforcer.
Jango Fett.
Jango Fett would bring a more aggressive and direct approach compared to his son Boba. His primary weapon, dual blasters, would allow for a barrage of shots, focusing on rapid fire to overwhelm opponents or precise shots for specific targets. Jango's jetpack would not only aid in mobility but also in executing swift, high-impact melee attacks like a rocket-propelled knee or a dive bomb from above. His dart launcher could apply debuffs, like poison or slow effects, to give him an edge in combat. Django would provide a different dynamic to the game, emphasizing speed and sustained pressure, appealing to players who enjoy a high-octane, offensive playstyle.
Din Djarin.
Din, or the Mandalorian, would bring a more grounded, tactical fighting style with an emphasis on Beskar armor resilience and weaponry. His arsenal includes wrist-mounted flamethrowers, grappling lines, and jetpack maneuvers. His inclusion would appeal to fans of tactical, gadget-based fighters, providing a unique playstyle where armor can be upgraded for different effects in combat.
Mace Windu.
Mace Windu, with his mastery of Form 7, Bapad, would introduce an aggressive, yet highly disciplined fighting style. His signature purple lightsaber would be central to his moves, with abilities like Force Crush, Rapid Strikes, and his ultimate move could involve channeling dark side energy for increased power temporarily. His inclusion would provide a high-skilled Cap character, appealing to those who appreciate complex combat mechanics and his unique place in Jedi lore.
Ahsoka Tano.
Ahsoka's agility and dual-wielding lightsabers would make her a dynamic fighter, capable of performing acrobatic attacks and quick counters. Her abilities might include a short-range dash for evasion or attack and a unique force ability to reverse opponents' attacks. Her addition would bring speed and flair, appealing to players who enjoy fast-paced, visually spectacular fights.
Ayla Secura.
In this game, Ayla would be an antagonist that becomes an enemy of Ahsoka. Known for her grace and Shui-like agility, Ayla would fight with a single lightsaber, employing a dance-like, fluid combat style. Her special abilities might include force-enhanced acrobatics or using her Leku, headtails, in combat for disorientation or extra attacks. Her serene yet powerful presence would offer a contrast to the more aggressive fighters, providing balance in gameplay.
Cad Bane.
As a bounty hunter, Cad Bane would bring a tactical and gadget-heavy approach to the fight. His moves would involve quick draws of blasters, use of stun grenades, and perhaps even a rocket boot for quick escapes or aerial attacks. His addition would introduce a non-Jedi perspective, focusing on strategy and weaponry over force powers, appealing to fans of the grittier side of Star Wars.
Marchon Ro.
As a leader of the Nihil, March Ion would utilize a mix of cunning and dark side abilities without being a traditional Sith. His combat could revolve around manipulating the battlefield with shadows or illusions, perhaps even teleporting short distances. His inclusion would explore the less seen aspects of dark side users, enriching the game's roster with a unique antagonist.
Zeb Aurelius.
Zeb, from Star Wars Rebels, would bring a rough, brawler style to the game. His moves would include powerful punches, kicks, and his bow rifle for both melee and ranged attacks. Special abilities might include a charge attack, ground pounds, or even using his species' natural armor for defensive boosts. Zeb's addition would diversify the roster with his physical prowess and comedic relief, offering a straightforward, fun gameplay experience.
Starkiller.
Known for his raw power, Starkiller, Galen Marek, would wield immense force abilities, including Force Lightning, Force Choke, and the ability to hurl massive objects at opponents. His combat style is aggressive, with a lightsaber technique that's both brutal and precise. He would be a fan favorite for those who love overpowered, high-damage characters. Do you see who's missing thus far? Don't worry, this Sith Lord will be the pre-order character.
Darth Maul.
Darth Maul's fighting style would be intensely acrobatic, aggressive, and visually striking, reflecting his mastery of Nyman and Juyo lightsaber forms. His abilities would include his double-bladed lightsaber, force-enhanced jumps, and force choke. His addition would provide a high-energy, fan-favorite villain whose iconic appearance in duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi in The Phantom Menace would excite players looking for a Sith Lord with flair and ferocity. Now for DLC, I think I chose a lot of interesting picks. 6 will be Star Wars and 6 will come from outside of Star Wars, let's put it that way. Let's start with the 6 characters that would be part of the first DLC pack. This pack would contain a mix of Star Wars character and pop culture icons. So here's where that starts.
Lando Calrissian.
Lando would bring a blend of charm and unexpected combat versatility to the game. His fighting style would be more about strategy than brute force, using gadgets like a hidden blaster, smoke bombs, or remote-controlled drones. Lando's inclusion would offer a charismatic, smooth-talking wildcard, appealing to players who enjoy tactical gameplay and the legacy of a beloved rogue.
Kit Fisto.
Kit Fisto, a Nautolan Jedi Master, would utilize Form I, Shicho, and Form 6, Nyman, with aquatic agility. His fighting style would incorporate water-like fluid movements, making him incredibly hard to pin down. Special abilities might include manipulating water, akin to his species' abilities in Legends, and he could use his unique lightsaber grip for extended reach. His addition would introduce a character with a serene yet powerful presence, appealing to those who admire the wisdom and creativity of the Jedi Order.
General Thrawn.
Grand Admiral Thrawn would not fight with physical prowess but with strategic mind games and tactical genius. His abilities in the game might involve analyzing opponents to predict moves, using holograms to confuse foes, or calling in precise strikes from an off-screen fleet. His inclusion would be ideal for players who relish outsmarting opponents, adding an intellectual dimension to the combat that reflects his status as one of the galaxy's greatest military minds.
Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd's fighting style would be a blend of law enforcement tactics and sheer brutality, reflecting his role as the law in Megacity 1. His abilities would include enhanced strength due to his armor, use of various law enforcement gadgets like the Lawgiver, which can switch between different types of ammunition, and perhaps even calling in backup or using his motorcycle for a devastating charge move. Dredd's inclusion would add a gritty, no-nonsense combatant to the roster, appealing to fans of dystopian law enforcement and adding a unique flavor of direct justice to the game.
Alita.
Alita, from Alita, Battle Angel, would bring a mix of cybernetic agility and martial prowess to the game. Her style would involve high-speed attacks, flips, and aerial maneuvers, leveraging her motorball skills and her experience as a warrior. Her special abilities could include deploying her plasma blades or using her enhanced vision for precision strikes. Alita's presence would enrich the game with her cyberpunk aesthetic and her compelling backstory, offering players a character who's both technologically advanced and deeply human.
Jake Sully.
Jake Sully's fighting style would combine Na'vi agility with human ingenuity. His abilities would focus on guerrilla tactics, utilizing Na'vi weaponry, military firepower, and possibly even bonding with a Banshee for aerial attacks. His size and athleticism would allow for unique moves involving his connection to Pandora's environment. Jake would be a great addition due to his box office success, creating a large potential for Avatar fans to purchase this game. Surprisingly enough, Judge Dredd would be the one and only guest character in the entire roster that Ed Boon would need money and rights to use. Judge Dredd is owned by Rebellion Publishing, which is not that big of a company compared to the likes of Universal or Viacom, for example. As for Jake Sully and Alita, both IP are owned by 20th Century, which is owned by Disney. In fact, both film franchises are directed by James Cameron. While I am aware that the movie was based on a Japanese manga, NetherRealm could still be in the clear so long as they stick with the movie version. Similar to how video games use the Witcher characters as guest characters. The second DLC pack will also include 3 Star Wars characters and 3 other characters from a franchise you probably already have guessed. So let's round out the roster right now.
Darth Nihilus.
As a dark figure from the Star Wars universe, Nihilus would employ force-based combat, emphasizing dark side powers like force lightning, telekinesis to throw opponents or environmental objects, and perhaps even a dark aura that drains opponents' health. His inclusion would cater to fans of the more sinister aspects of the Force, providing a character with a deeply psychological and fear-inducing fighting approach.
Mara Jade.
Mara Jade, known for her lethal skills as an Emperor's Hand-turned Jedi, would have a fighting style that mixes Force abilities with expert hand-to-hand combat and lightsaber dueling. Her abilities could include mind tricks, force speed for rapid attacks, and a lightsaber form that's both aggressive and precise. Her addition would appeal to fans of the expanded universe, offering a character with a rich backstory and a redemption arc that adds depth to her combat style.
Sebulba.
Bringing a unique flair, Sebulba from The Phantom Menace would fight with his pod racer configured as a mech. His style might include using brute strength moves, turbine engines for fiery attacks, and other lowbrow moves such as flinging wrenches from his cockpit. His presence would inject humor and a more lighthearted, albeit vicious, combat style, appealing to fans who enjoy the more unconventional characters.
Scorpion.
Scorpion would offer a blend of spectral magic and martial arts. His signature "get over here" spear move would be a staple, along with teleportation for quick, unpredictable attacks and fire-based abilities. His addition would be fantastic for fans of ninjas and supernatural combat, enhancing the game with his iconic moves and vengeful backstory.
Kano.
Kano's fighting would be all about raw aggression and cybernetic weaponry. Known for his prosthetic eye that can emit a laser, his combat would include eye beams, knife throws, and brutal close-quarters combat. His inclusion would bring a classic Mortal Kombat vibe, appealing to crossover fans and adding a character with a notorious reputation for being ruthless and cunning.
Shao Kahn.
As the Emperor of Outworld, Shao Kahn would dominate with brute force and warlord tactics. His fighting style would involve massive, powerful strikes, use of his war hammer, and perhaps an ability to summon minions for assistance in battle or to drain opponents' energy. Shao Kahn's inclusion would bring a formidable, imposing figure to the game, known for his command presence and desire for conquest, appealing to those who love playing as the villain. All three Mortal Kombat characters would adopt the Star Wars aesthetic. But because Shao Kahn wields a hammer and not a blade, we unfortunately couldn't make him into a Sith Lord, but he could be equally as ruthless as Vader, nonetheless. That is 35 characters for a NetherRealm Star Wars fighting game. One last time, let's hear the announcer do a roll call.
Judge Dredd. Mara Jade. Obi-Wan. Yoda. Leia Organa. Luke Skywalker. Darth Vader. Count Dooku. Asajj Ventress. Darth Maul. Darth Nihilus. Shao Kahn. Alita. Kit Fisto. Mace Windu. Chewbacca. Han Solo. Boba Fett. Jango Fett. General Grievous. Starkiller. General Thrawn. Scorpion. Jake Sully. Lando Calrissian. Ahsoka Tano. Zeb Aurelius. Din Djarin. Rey. Kylo Ren. Ayla Secura. Marshawn Rowe. Cad Bane. Sebulba. Kano.